This episode is sponsored by the book Diagnosis Parkinson's Disease. Now what? By Rory Graham. It's a practical guide for patients, caregivers, and their families who have been touched by this terrible disease. Order your copy today from Amazon and other fine booksellers, or get an autographed copy at rorygraham.com. Order today.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here, Bob. I thank you for joining us on Success Tracks, and I myself am in the video production business, so I know a lot about what's involved and the trials and tribulations of being in such a business.
Yeah.
So to reach the a pinnacle that you have reached in your career is quite an achievement, so I'd like to turn the stage over to you, and you just tell us about it, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I've always loved television. When I was a little kid, I used to use my my telescope as a TV camera when I was like 8, 9 years old, and my sisters were the talent. But I just absolutely loved to go to live television shows, and so then it progressed, and then in 1976, I joined the Virginia Beach Fire Department, and I was in the field as a field firefighter for 15 years, and then I transferred to the Fire Training Center on Bird Neck Road here in Virginia Beach in 1990. And I had the opportunity to be able to start the Virginia Beach Fire Department video production unit. And that started out very, very slow. They started me out as a fire instructor because they really didn't have a position there as a videographer for the fire department. And so I was kind of like, I loved being in the field, but I wasn't ready to be a fire instructor. And so they sent me to the National Fire Academy and taught me how to be a fire instructor. And slowly, we progressed into developing the fire department video department. We worked with kind of our sister state. There's different fire departments throughout the country that have video production units for their fire departments, and so we kind of compared notes, started that, and then it got bigger and bigger, and we converted one of our classrooms into a studio, and then from there it got to be pretty popular, and then we started doing hour-long programs, and that was a lot of work. And then, of course, now these days I'm doing 30-second programs or 2-minute programs, so it's a lot different. But we were doing all kinds of training programs for the fire department. We did a national show for the National Fire Academy where all of the different fire department video production units throughout the country joined together to make a program. I think one time there was one that was done around here called PM Magazine. It was kind of similar to that. Everybody contributed to the program, and then it got busier and busier. And then we were, we would do police training programs, we would do rescue squad training programs, and then I remember the day that we got in if you remember the TV listings, I think it was called the green section. We actually had our program on cable, and it was listed in the green section, which was just incredible to me. And so progressively, we kept doing programs. I was fortunate enough to be able to be a part of the Virginia Task Force 2, which is the task force. There are 2 task forces in Virginia. One is in Fairfax and one is in Virginia Beach. In fact, they just were deployed to the hurricane, and I did video documentation for the team for the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995, and then 2001 and 9/11. Our team went to the Pentagon and we did video documentation for the team there. And then progressively after that, things started getting busier and busier, and I was really getting to the point that I could retire from the fire department, and so I ended up starting this business, Anderson Multimedia Productions LLC, and it started out a little slow because I was, of course, everybody in the fire department, the police department, and the rescue squad, they all lined up at the door because, of course, it was for free. And then I was able to start the business, and in the private sector, it was a little different in the real world. And so I had to actually go out and get business, which was different for me. And so, but as the time went on, it started getting busier and busier, and then it got to the point that it was just out of control. And I brought in other videographers that worked with me, and I know at one point my brother was working with me too, and trying to keep up with the demand. But that's kind of where we're at now. It really got busy. 2010 is when it really got crazy busy, and we were doing programs for the Department of Education, and that finally got me to the point that it just about burned me out. And so I decided to take a hiatus from the business for a little while, and then about a month after that, I started getting real bored, and so I decided to go back, and that's kind of where we're at right now.
Well, I can appreciate a lot of that. I've been through some of the same things. Yeah. And sometimes it's feast or famine, And but I also remember, when you first start and you're trying to get your feet wet and you're doing things for free, there's a line. And then when you start to charge, even modestly charge, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't know. All of a sudden it's not so great.
It's funny you should say that, because it started out. I know the first client I had, I think I was charging like $15 an hour, and everybody would constantly come to you and say, "You're not charging enough." And of course, I'm not used to charging anybody to do this, because I did all of it, at the fire department on duty. But it's a little different in the private sector.
Yeah. And I got a story I can tell you about that later. I don't want to waste your time here with it.
No.
So no, it's quite a journey coming from where you were working with the fire department. That's kind of a different angle. I haven't heard that angle. I didn't come up that way. And I've worked with a lot of video companies and everything, so that's different. Were you on? Was your show on Cox 11?
It was the video services for the city of Virginia Beach. They're the ones that actually got it on cable, which was, you of anybody would realize how exciting it would be. We didn't have any way of distributing it other than VHS tapes.
Right,
and
you got that. Right.
We would duplicate those. We'd make like 50, 60 of them, and then we'd send them to all the fire stations. And then when we had the opportunity to get it on cable, it was incredibly exciting. Right. And I think the thing that is important that for us was that it wasn't specifically just for the firefighters. It had training in it, but the fact that one of the things I always loved with the fire department was to show citizens all about the fire department, because I love the fire service. It's an amazing career, and to be able to do a program that shows firefighter training and get it on cable like that, it wasn't just for the firefighters. It was also to show the public the kind of things that we do, and it worked.
But I know from experience of doing the same type of thing, not the fire department, but we had a show on cable too that we produced for Cox Cable. It was a cosmetic surgery show,
Yeah.
But to have that air every week, it's like, wow, it was a big thrill back then, and
Well,
so it's a feather in your cap to have that. And I also remember the green sheet. That's what we used to call it, the green sheet. It was a green section of paper that hung around your house for a week
That's
because
right.
it had the
That's
TV
right.
listings, and also, yeah, you brought back some great memories.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that happened to us, the most exciting thing for me would be to get the show out live. I just absolutely love live television. And there was this one time where we were doing the national show, and they wanted to do a program and do it remotely from our studio. So they hired a satellite truck of all things, parked in the back parking lot of the fire training center, and now we're live on a satellite truck coming from our studio. It was just absolutely incredible.
And just to kind of jump to today, we're doing podcasts. I mean, this is
Yeah.
incredible technology. Everybody's got a TV station or
Yeah.
can have one, and now you can broadcast around the world. It's just like, who would have thought?
Absolutely right. And that was when we first, in fact, when I was still uniformed with the fire department, when we started live streaming the Virginia Fallen Firefighter and EMS workers, the memorial service from the Richmond International Raceway, and it was for the Virginia Department of Fire Programs. And we have done that every year now. Even now in my private business, they hire us to do that. That's real exciting because you see in the exhibition hall is large enough. I don't know how many people have actually been in there, but you could put 13 fire trucks in there, and so it's pretty massive. And they'll have probably 600 or 700 people that attend the live service. The last one we did this year, the governor was there, and it's a wonderful service. But the thing that's real exciting is when you look at the numbers that you're streaming to, and it's meeting or exceeding the audience that you're looking in front of you, the live audience. So that's pretty awesome.
It is. It's a whole new world. It really
Yeah,
is.
it is.
It's
It
amazing.
is.
It's a whole new world. And so let's bring us up to today. What are you doing now?
I am actually lucky enough to be doing a lot of work with VDOT, the HRBT expansion, which is the boring of tunnels here in Hampton Roads. Just an amazing project. I think the thing that has been real successful after I took my hiatus, I was approached by two other companies. I'm sure people will recognize the name Sandra Parker. Sandra worked for Channel 13 here at WVEC for about 30 years. Just amazing career. She started her production company. And then there's another lady that we work with. She has a marketing company. And so what we decided to do was to get together and form a group. It's called Coastal Marketing and Media Group. And that way we can go to a client. It's still our three individual businesses, but we can go to a client and offer marketing, content development, which is what Sandra does. Sandra does voiceover. And then I do multimedia, and so that way we can really bring a client a lot of things, because as you know, Rory, that with social media these days and promoting programs and that kind of thing, you need to know what you're doing, and that's why we're so fortunate. I'm so fortunate to be able to work with somebody like Sandra, and then Mary. Who is Mary Bingham is her name. She's got the skills to market this stuff on social media, and that's a whole different animal. As I don't have to tell you, but I like to concentrate on the video part, which is great. Sandra, writes wonderful scripts. She logs video, and she and I work almost on a daily basis. Now with the podcast, we're doing 4 or 5 podcasts now, which are fun. And when I first got into podcasting, I was like, "What is a podcast?" And so we started developing different things. I got a lot of really great equipment. Originally here in my office, we had a great podcast table, which was huge. But then we started realizing that it was really fun to be able to record things on location, and not everybody wanted to come to my office with some of the podcasts we were doing. So having a portable system with some great equipment, I've got one of the Rode mixers, which is a podcast mixer, and it's just great. And we can go to different locations. We do some podcasts for what's called TIMS, which is a Tidewater Emergency Medical Services here in Chesapeake, Virginia, and we decided the past couple of years they have an expo that they do at the one of the hotels in Chesapeake. Excuse me, and we decided to set the podcast table up actually in the hallway where they have the vendors. And you would think, man, that's going to be really loud. And that's exactly what we wanted, is we wanted that spontaneity of actually recording something on location like that. And so we've done that the past 2 years. And the microphones, the Shure microphones that I use are very directional. You can hear the talking in the background just very faintly, and it's turned out very successful. And so we do that on location, from now on. So those are the kind of projects that we've been working on. But there's a whole bunch of them out there, and the business is going crazy. So.
Well, it sounds like you're having a good time too. So,
yes.
Yeah. Well, that's important, and I was very fortunate to find the video production business, and make a career out of it for 40 years. So,
yeah, wow.
And now I'm moving into podcasts, and also I'm not ready to sit down on the bench yet.
No. But I'll tell you, one of the things that I've learned, and I worked with you a couple of years ago,
mm-hmm.
And with when my business actually first started, and people wanted to have different services done, and I could rely on your company to be able to help me with that. But I think what I've really learned over the years is that it's not really competition. I don't feel like I'm competing against your video company to do a job. Let me back up just a little bit with the Virginia Fallen Firefighter Memorial. What happens is they honor firefighters throughout Virginia that were killed in the line of duty, what's called presumptive, which if they get lung cancer or something like that, they presume that they died of that from their career. And we, the year before last, we had 3 firefighters that were honored. And traditionally, it starts on the first Saturday in June, and it starts at 12 o'clock noon, and they do eulogies for each one of the firefighters. So there were 3 of them. Well, this year was a little different because they were honoring 17 firefighters. And so, we're working with them trying to figure out how are we going to do this? Because if you do 5 or 6 minute eulogies for 17 firefighters, that's a long time, and especially if it starts at noon. So what we decided to do was Sandra and I, Sandra of course wrote the scripts through the eulogies that were sent to her, and we did 1 minute video for each firefighter. And so that presented a little bit of a problem for us because, we had just live streamed the service. We had never had an occasion that we had to play a video. And so, and this is what I'm getting at as far as the competition. It was great to work with a professional sound guy. They hired a big screen TV company that had 2 of these massive displays each side of the stage, and they took my feed from my switcher. And so the advantage of that was not only were we able to play the video over these screens and for the live stream, but also they would take the output of my switcher when we went to the cameras, because you figure 600 people, that's a long way back, and you see the little tiny speaker up there. So this way we were able to give the live audience, aside from the streaming audience, a chance to be able to see the camera shots, and it worked incredibly well. And the service went off without a hitch. It was a little nerve-wracking, with playing that video, which we played from our system over the big screens, but also having 6 or 7 people up on the stage, including the governor. Everything needed to go right, and luckily it did.
Well, I know I happen to really like live productions.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of them and over the years, and I really like that too. It's an adrenaline rush, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you got one shot at it, to get it right. But I also, it's just like when you and I were talking, you had brought some work in, and you and I were talking, and I told you about this podcast and everything. And even though you're a video production company, and this would be promoting you, I don't look at you. I mean, I know technically, I guess it's somewhat competition, but there's plenty of work out there, and I'm not, and I'm not, I work with a lot of companies. I have worked with over the years, and I've done what you've done too. Is you work with a sound guy from one company and a projection guy is another company, and everything. So. There's a lot of if you have a reputation for working well with other companies and everything, it's not a problem at all. So
No, I agree with that, and I think one of the things that I've always brought up to a client when they come to me and they say, we want to live stream this. And it's exciting and it's spontaneous, and I guess a lot of times that makes the whole. It's like when you show up at some ceremony and you've got a camera. It gives, I guess, more credibility, to the program. But I always ask the client when they come to me and they say we want to live stream it, why? What is the reason that you want to live stream it? There was another company that I was working. I was actually doing the production work for the company. And there was another company that was doing the live stream, and he and I worked real well together. But it was kind of like, why are you live streaming this? It could just as well. There's no interaction or anything like that. You could just as well put everything on tape, do it live on tape.
Yeah, and you could upload it to YouTube or something.
You absolutely could, and play it like it's a live program,
right,
and that's
right.
fine. But they didn't want to do that.
Well, yeah, I like to remind people that if it's live, it's live. You can't pull it back. So.
You can't get it back. And the thing that happened for this particular company, this other guy, he's a local guy here, and his company is great. He does amazing work too. They got there at where they're doing the live production at like 6 o'clock in the morning. They're going live to, it was like 1,000 people or something like that had signed up for this, and the internet was off. And so
that's good.
Yeah, and so they're trying to call somebody to come in there and turn the internet on. So it's stuff like that is just unforeseen. Let me tell you this it wasn't funny at the time, but this past memorial service that I did, of course, there are lots of firefighters and chiefs that I've known over the years, and they see you on the side and they want to shake your hand, and that's really fun, because some of these firefighters, I mean, I was in the department 29 years, so you get to know a lot of people. And this one chief, we're at a table next to where the audience is, and all of our equipment is set up on the table, and this everything is fine. We actually started streaming everything looks good. The stream, we actually had a system. There's a website that you can go to called Restream, which you can stream on like 4 or 5 or many platforms if you want, because they wanted to live stream to all of these platforms. So we're looking at the computer and everything is just running so perfect. The big screens are up there. They have the feed. We had done a little PowerPoint that we're playing announcements and that kind of thing. And this chief comes up to me and who I had known for 100 years and shook my hand. And I said, "How you doing? Nice to see you," that kind of thing. And then the sound guy comes up and he says, the screen's blank. And I'm like, "What?" And my switcher is starting up again. Like it's restarting. And I'm like, "What is going on?" And everything's off. And what apparently had happened was the chief had accidentally hit one of my power strips and shut the whole system down.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm like, okay, let's get it back again. I'm hitting my encoder to try to get the stream back up. And just when you think everything is perfect, something like that happens. But luckily, we got it back up. The stream came back up, and the audience built up like crazy, and it was very successful.
And the emergency crew was able to revive you.
They almost needed to, absolutely.
Yeah. I know the feeling.
That was a terrible feeling. But when it was over, of course, what a satisfaction of being able to do something like that. And the client was thrilled too, because they had never done anything to that extent before. And it's you got the governor there, Governor of Virginia, and you want to make sure everything runs perfectly, and it sure did. Everything came off just perfectly. So.
Well, that's good. Now, so as success in business is not an easy thing. Most people do not succeed. Right. And those that even do succeed the first year or so, by year 5, about 90% of those are not there. Mm-hmm. So I always ask in Success Tracks, what are 2 or 3 success principles, or things that you did that made the difference in your business? Because this is hopefully will inspire others to be able to use some of these tips and tricks to help their journey be a little easier.
Yeah,
that's the purpose
absolutely.
of this.
I think that there's 2 things: a business plan, number 1, and being able to fire a client. I'll tell you about both of them. First of all, when I left the fire department, I was really gun ho. I was doing everything I could do to figure out how to make money, because that was a lot different. In the fire department, you weren't just going to be having people lined up at the door for free. You had to go out and get the business. And when I first went into business, I had no business plan. And that was probably the biggest mistake I ever made. I got office space. I mean, I was ready to go. And it was a fortune. It cost a fortune. And I bought all of this equipment, and I was ready to do business. And I had a few clients, but I never had a plan to be able to figure out, how am I going to pay for all of this stuff? I got a receptionist. I mean, it looked like a great business. We built a nice studio, and we had done a few things, but it wasn't generating a whole lot of money. And so that really was the biggest mistake that I made. And, it took a long time to kind of turn that around a little bit. And then the other thing has to do with firing a client. I had a few clients, and, of course, I was pretty desperate to make sure that, whatever it took to get a client to make some money, I was going to do it. And so I had a couple clients, one in particular, that was it was a nightmare. And Rory, I'm sure you've probably gone through the same thing. The fella hated everything. He was always critical of every single thing that you would work hours and hours and hours changing everything to suit them, and he was just not happy. And it got to the point that I just couldn't do anymore. And so that's my second piece of advice is, don't be afraid to fire a client, because Mary and Sandra and I are the same way. We've had a couple of clients that it's just not worth it. And look, there's another thing too, which I would really stress to everybody. When we were doing this series of videos I was working through my client to do this series of videos, and it was like 18 videos, and they were the kind of thing where you would record voiceover, and you'd have to use stock stuff to be able to make the video, and which was really, really difficult, because the client was very specific on how they wanted the look to happen. And my client and I never put in any kind of contract or anything about revisions. That was a huge mistake, because we would do the videos and we would send it to my client. They would critique it. They had another client through ODU, which she reviewed it. She would have suggestions, and then and then her client from Richmond had 6 people that would be critiquing the videos, and it got to the point that you would either do 5 or 6 revisions, or you'd have to just re-edit the entire video. So that was a tough learn, because that's what I would tell everybody is make sure that if you're ever doing any kind of work like that, that you make sure that if it's more than 1 or 2 revisions, they got to pay for it.
Yeah, I can really appreciate that. I trained a lot of video, putting people in video production business across the country early on, and I was a trainer for a national company, and while I had my company too. But one of the things that I would tell people is that, and I'm sure you've run into this with people with scripts, was that, everybody has an opinion, and and I would actually ask the clients, I'd say, who is the decision maker? Who am I trying to please here? So I would have the same vision that they would have to do the script, and it was important. And I'd say it's because, like, if you give the script to 12 people, every person will make a change.
Absolutely.
Even because it's human nature to want to make it theirs, and so they will all do it. And I won't name the client, but there's a significant client in this area that we did videos for, and the first ones, the videos had to go up the chain of command, and it went all the way to Richmond and the way back, and everybody added their little change. Well, holy moly, when I get the script back, it was nothing like, and eventually, as we kept doing it, they kept sending it up and sending it up. Eventually, it came back. It was almost the way it was originally. It kept changing and changing and changing, went all the way back around. So you're right. Revisions, putting it in the contract that's real important. And
well, I'll tell you the other thing that I've learned too over the years is not everybody. I don't want to say they don't know what they're doing, but not everybody.
No, they don't.
does stuff the way that you think it should be done. I always tell people, I tell a client especially, if they want to write a script, if they want to do a video and they want to write the script, to always start out with bullets, a book, beginning, middle, end, and then expand on the bullets. Yeah, and everybody is like, well, let's go shoot the video. Well, no. We need a plan to be able to shoot this video. And so I always tell people, you do the bullets, you expand on the bullets, then you start writing your script, and then you do your shot sheet. and then I can go get the footage or the graphics. I had a client a couple of weeks ago. It was a video that took a lot of, there was a lot of stock stuff, that was used in it. But it just, searching for, I've had clients with like this before where you would go in and you start editing, the editor, I'm on the clock. And then the client is looking for shots. Well, I'm still on the clock, so, that's the prep for something like that, I think is really, really critical, that you have your act together before you come into the editor.
Yeah, one of the things I used to tell clients is that, I will always tell you what I think. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Whatever you're going to pay for, I can do it. But I'll always tell you what I think, regardless. And in that way, I won't say, "Oh, gee, I could have told you that." I won't be in one of those situations because a lot of people make a lot of assumptions, as you know, and they don't know what they're talking about, and they don't understand that by doing it maybe their way, their cost will go tremendously higher.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
you're absolutely right. Those are great points.
Yeah.
Well, I have known you for a number of years, and
Many.
and you're a good guy, and I'm glad we're connected again through this and
Me too.
and some work. And so I look forward to continuing to our friendship. So, is there anything else you'd like to leave with before we say goodbye?
All I can do is tell people that are in the business, the most important, and Sandra and Mary and I, when we work together, we're the same way, is to have a good time. It just, you don't want to have to just struggle through, and it's miserable, and we have a blast, and we love the clients that we have. Like I said again, if it doesn't work out, it's nothing that you should be ashamed of as far as firing a client. But that makes it make it having fun. I think it's the most important thing for us, and so far, it's been a blast.
Well, you're very fortunate to be able to say that. I've talked to a lot of people that don't feel that way about what they're doing.
Right.
So, but thank you so much for coming in. And so
you.
let me close this out, and we'll talk after this is over. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, well, that's our Success Tracks episode this time, and we thank Bob for coming in. And if you have a business that you're successful in, or you're successful in any aspect of life, and you would like to tell your story and some tips and all that could help others along with their journey, we'd love to hear from you. And if you went to successtracks.com, you can fill out a little application thing there, and we'll contact you. And just be careful, Success Tracks is spelled a little differently, and that's how we got the .com. So anyway, with that, I'm out.